see rules in this tournament vary. As you do see Mark Lalangue on the left, Grand Prix champion, I am very surprised to see a deck that doesn't have Stomping Ground yet existing. Yeah, basically.
He was the opponent at Grand Prix Denver, where my tournament started going off the rails.
Oh, you lost to him that weekend?
When I was 9-1, I lost to him, which set off. And I played game 2 was like the worst game I've ever played in my entire life, and that set off the downward spiral.
As you do see Mark here on the left, he is a Grand Prix champion, won Grand Prix Anaheim.
Yep. That was Innistrad block?
Yeah, Innistrad block constructed. He was the winner of that tournament. He's also streaming now on twitch.tv, and he is playing Green Red Aggro this weekend. As you do see 2 copies of Strangleroot Geist in play. He's got a bit of a brew this weekend. You're going to find 4 copies of Flinthoof Boar, some Borderland Rangers, Hell Riders, Huntmaster of the Fells, Strangleroot Geist, which you guys do see in play, Thragtusk, Wolfhair, Silverheart. His spells, he's got a couple Mizium Mortars, a couple copies of Devil's Play, 4 copies of Pillar Flame, and 3 Abundant Growth.
Yep. And his opponent, Ariel Coronel, on your right with Naya mid-range. Basically a 3-color good stuff deck. Smiter, Angel, Pilgrim, Thundermaw, Hellkite, a 1-main Exgarda, Thragtusk, Borderland Ranger, Huntmaster of the Fells, Bonfire, Farseek, Celestia Charm. So shades of the deck. We saw a fair amount of this at the Invitational. This is a deck that's very good against decks that are playing on the board, because Bonfire and your awesome threats are very good against them.
Yes.
Less suited for the control matchups, but I would expect Naya to be slightly ahead in this matchup. But
I would think so. I would
not venture to say that I'm a master on the current Gruul versus Naya matchup in this metagame.
Oh, you haven't tested that much?
Not really.
I think it's safe to say that not a lot of people have tested against Mark's deck. One of the things that Mark might get advantage of, as we see Ariel with a Huntmaster of the Fells here, is that people don't know what's in his deck.
Right.
And that could generate a bit of an advantage. They don't know what spells to play around. I would be interested to talk to Mark after the tournament, assuming he does make a deep run this weekend, just how many Mizium Mortars that we saw kind of blow out the opponent this weekend.
How many Mortars does he have?
He has 3 in his main deck. How many copies of Devil's Play does he have? Just something like that. I mean,
sure.
He has 2 in his deck. I mean, are people going to play around that effect? There's not very many Fireballs right now, as we do see Abundant Growth being read.
Some shades of Innistrad block constructed.
Yes, absolutely. We'll bring Abundant Growth on the screen for you guys so that you can see it. Abundant Growth on Kessig Wolfrun. A bit of a combo, maybe? As we do see Strangleroot Geist coming across here. Looks like Ariel's going to make a trade. Strangleroot Geist are going to come back. A little bit bigger and better this go around. But you guys do see Abundant Growth on the screen. A card that was very popular in Innistrad block constructed. Kind of fallen out of favor here a little bit. But maybe Mark bringing something back, as we do see a Temple Garden here from Ariel. Maybe we're going to see a Thragtusk, and we're going to see a Bonfire of the Damned. Clear up these Strangleroot Geist right out of the way. Mark also going to take 2 from that as well. So, progressing along here, Mark going to draw his card. We see Borderland Ranger, the draw step for the turn. Now, it begs the question, Patrick, of course, as we see Kessig Wolfrun, and we're going to see Thragtusk here. You see, the spells that Mark has chosen to play in 4 Pillar Flame, 3 Mizium Mortars, 2 Devil's Play. The card that you don't see, that Ariel did cast, is Bonfire of the Damned.
Yeah, and maybe it's a mana consideration, no, I guess he's just happy to play on the board. He's also got a lot of expensive cards in his deck, so it's possible that Bonfiring is actually a pretty big opportunity cost for him when he's just trying to cast 4s and 5s.
Sure. And obviously Bonfire, the things that it pairs up very nicely with are mana accelerants like Birds of Paradise, Absence Pilgrim, that sort of thing. You're not going to find those cards here in Mark's deck, so maybe it does make sense to just have Mizium Mortars act as your Bonfire. And we are going to see Wolfhair Silver, another block constructed all-star.
Yeah.
Mark is kicking it old school.
Yeah, I assume that he just took the deck that he had in his deck box from Anaheim and just maybe got new sleeves for it. I don't know, but it's basically the same thing from Anaheim here.
I mean, this is one way to win the Thragtusk War. Something that we haven't seen as much of late in Standard. Something that we saw at the very beginning. But now we see Thragtusk battling back and forth, and Silverheart here, kind of embarrassing Ariel's Thragtusk. And, I mean, you can't ignore the 8/8 that's in play either.
Yeah, Wolfhair Silverheart was a card that definitely fallen off the radar. But
it's coming back.
It's back. Yeah. It's back right now.
It's back now, and when Stomping Ground and Friends come back, maybe even Breeding Pool, we're going to see Wolfhair Silverheart again. That card is way too good not to see playing.
Yeah.
Way too good. That card defined that block constructed Pro Tour.
Yes. Ariel could really use a Silesia Charm here. I don't. That is not big enough.
I mean, that's a good card.
That's fine.
That's a good Magic card. As you see, threat test number 2 from Ariel, gaining 5 life, netting him a 5/3. But we see Mark with big creatures, and we see Mark with a Kessig Wolfrun in play. And as you know, and anyone who's played Magic for a long time, and when you're playing in a matchup of green decks, kind of green mid-rangey deck, the biggest creature wins.
And certainly trampling is insane too, you know. So Mark very well set up to fight this kind of fight here. All right, Thragtusk is just coming through, and let's see if Mark wants to get any more additional damage in, or if he's happy with just the 9.
Yeah, just 9/7. That's it. Just coming across, and we see Borderland Ranger coming in. Gonna search him out of land, make that Wolfrun even a little bit better as he does search for a mountain. I think, and this wasn't a time where I played a ton, at least not competitively. I was kind of young watching this from the scenes, but, Fire to Yavimaya, when that was a big deck, I think was just kind of like the biggest creature won. Is that kind of how it worked back then?
Haste was super important.
Okay.
Yeah, being on the front foot. Also, Mana Denial was big because you could kill the birds and elves and port, but yeah, it was basically about getting your big stuff.
Getting the big boom booms into play, maybe.
Whether you were denying your opponent by doing it yourself or denying your opponent the ability to do it, it was a lot of how the game was played.
It looks like we're going to see Mark. He's going to cast Pillar Flame here, Pillar Flame there. This guy's got to go away, but I'm still going to get a 3/3.
Yep. That's
still going to happen. The Thrash is just going to move from the game. And I think Mark is saying, yeah, I can beat 2 3/3s.
And also, I'm probably not going to get to do anything much better with these pillars.
Yeah, those might go upstairs. A little bit of reach as we do see a Restoration Angel here drawn from Ariel. But
so actually, pretty awesome that Mark took care of that Thragtusk.
Yeah,
that Restoration Angel is far worse.
Don't let the shenanigans start, as we do see a Loxodon Smiter here. Now we're going to see a Farseek. I think Mark is feeling pretty good. I think we might see the two big boys here come across, and
this might be a sweet attack.
Yeah, this might be an attack for a whole lot of damage and some of it trampling.
We might send in everyone, actually.
Borderland's not afraid.
No.
He gets to trade up here with the Smiter.
And also, another reason for Mark to use both of his pillars there is he's at a point in the game now where he would ideally just rather be using all of his mana into Kessig Wolfrun going forward.
Yeah.
So just clear out everything out of your hand, and now you can devote everything into pumping Wolfrun.
Yeah, it's basically a spell that's on the table for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
And Wolfrun provides just such a powerful effect once you do get all those spells out. And that's why you see Borderland Ranger side by side, with the rest of these cards. Borderland Ranger fixes your mana. Make sure you hit your land drops for your big 5 mana spells. And once all said and done, assuming you've drawn a Kessig Wolfrun, you get the mana sink right into it for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
And Borderland Ranger does come across, as you said.
Well, I mean, from Mark's perspective, I believe that he feels like Ariel just has to get the Silver Heart off the table.
Yeah.
He can't play with that card in play. So Ariel's already in a position where he's pretty heavily incentivized to triple block here. And if that's what's going on, then the Borderland Ranger attack is a free roll. And if Ariel isn't willing to triple block the Silver Heart, that's fine too.
Yeah, now you're just going to see, now Mark can pick its poison. What he wants to do with the Wolfrun. How much do I want to trample over for? I just get to crush him with all of my mana this turn. And it's just a perfect attack. I mean, he's just in a great situation right now. There isn't really much of a reason to leave that Borderland Ranger back.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot of spots where I think a lot of people would have been a little more conservative with it. But because, from Mark's perspective, Ariel has to block either like this or triple up on the Silver Heart to be able to fight. If he's putting any one of his creatures in front of the Borderland Ranger, he's not getting anywhere,
And we do see the last card in Mark's hand, the card that he drew for the turn, was a Huntmaster of the Fells. So now he's just going to try to figure out what he wants to do here, because he is going to lose his Thragtusk, but when Thragtusk does die, the pairing will be broken. But then when the 3/3 comes back into play, he can repair with that, or he can repair with a Huntmaster of the Fells, making Huntmaster into a 6/6 and Wolfir Silverheart into an 8/8 again.
So we pumped the Silverheart for 0.
Correct.
That's just for trample.
Correct.
And now the leftover mana is going to be used for Huntmaster of the Fells.
And we'll see exactly, where Mark wants to make the Soul Bond. If he wants to make it with the Beast token, looks like he says no to that. And we're going to see Huntmaster of the Fells, and I think we might see a thumbs up or a yes to pairing with this one, because of course it is just a better creature than the Beast.
Yeah, and if it's paired up, it still survives Bonfire of the Damned.
Correct.
Ariel can't Bonfire for enough to kill a 6/6, so you might as well have your Huntmaster paired up.
As we see these two change their Facebook status. Did you know on Facebook they now have a couples page?
Ooh.
Yeah. So these two are in a
It's
couple.
complicated.
Yeah, it doesn't look too complicated right now. They look like they're happy. It's complicated for Ariel.
Yeah, this is awfully complicated.
So the Ariel draw his card. I mean, even if it was a Bonfire of the Damned, it wouldn't even clear the board right now. You know, it would take care of that Beast token, the Wolf, and the Borderland Ranger, but he'd still be facing down a ton of damage. So not quite sure what Ariel can do to get out of this situation. You know, I do see a Selesnya Charm hiding out there.
Yeah.
And we're going to see an Avacyn's Pilgrim too. So Selesnya Charm maybe Rekka mid-combat?
I mean, Wreckham is strong, I think. I mean, I guess he gets to. I mean, Mark has such a big board. Even if he puts Smiter in front of Huntmaster and shoots the Silverheart.
Ugh. Yeah. Ugh.
Hellrider.
Yeah. What are we talking about here?
I think that if I was in Ariel's position last turn when Mark made his attack, I probably would have put everything in front of the Silverheart.
Sure.
Because realistically, the only way I feel that he could have won that game from there is by drawing Bonfire.
Sure.
So you just need to put yourself in a position where Bonfire is actually a live draw.
Like, give yourself an out.
Yeah.
You know, give yourself the best opportunity to win. I think Wolfram Silver on that board was the most dominant card right now.
Yes.
Being right behind Kessig Wolfram with all that mana. But you have to take care of what you can.
Yeah.
In that situation, I think I agree with you. You know, it doesn't look good on paper. It doesn't look good on the board to throw all your guys in front of that oncoming train. But if it gives you a chance to win, I think you have to take it.
He's got a shot, right? If his next draw says Bonfire, he's right there, you know?
Yeah, I would agree. So we do see Mark up a game with his brew, with his green-red, excuse me, aggro deck, not green-white. Green-white's a little bit more traditional. Ariel on the right-hand side, you have his deck list. Naya mid-range, a deck that you feel is a little bit favored in this matchup, but I don't disagree with you. Where's the help coming from?
He has 3 copies of Angel of Serenity and 2 copies of Garruk Primal Hunter in his sideboard.
Those are good starts.
Sweet. Another copy of Sigarda if he wants to, you know, get a little more in the air, which I can see wanting to do here. Because, you know, with the Thragtusk battles, the ground can get kind of locked up. He's got Pillars, which I don't really like here. Ranger's Guiles, not a lot of targeted removal in Mark's deck. Nevermore, obviously. Nevermore, and Nevermore, I guess, is probably pretty bad, and Rest in Peace is certainly bad.
Yeah. Taking a look over here at Mark's deck, one card that Mark was harping on during deck construction, as I was talking to some of the players, he was loving Blasphemous Act this weekend. Yep. And I think this is a spot where, again, we talked about how Mark's deck is going to be able to catch some people off guard because they don't know what's in his deck. This is a card that is just like the hallmark of that. A card that no one plays around anymore. Just a very unique Wrath effect. He has 4 copies in his sideboard, so we could see those coming in. He has 2 copies of Staffin in. You know, in your more grindy matchups, I'm not quite sure this is where it's really at home because the ping effect really isn't going to do very much here. Drawing 2 cards a turn, obviously very powerful, but it does cost 6 mana. You're going to find 2 more copies of Huntmaster of the Fells in his sideboard, really at home here. 2 copies of Tree of Redemption in the sideboard. Not a bad spot for those. And additional copies of Devil's Play in this attrition matchup. Reusable Fireballs, relatively good. Another copy of Wolfram Silverheart definitely coming in. Crushing Fines, not so much. 2 Ground Seals, definitely not. More for the Reanimator matchup. But he's got some tools here.
Yeah, I actually like Staff in this matchup because there's a reasonable chance that the game just like grinds to a halt.
Sure.
And then Staff can kind of take over from there. It might be for more dedicated control decks, but the way these decks play out, I wouldn't be surprised if Staff was actually fairly good here. And Ariel doesn't really have a lot of ways. I actually believe the answer is 0 ways to answer it.
To get that off the board. Okay.
If I was Mark, I think I would want it here.
Now, what's interesting, a card in Ariel sideboard, as you said, Pillar of Flame. A card that I agree with you probably shouldn't come in here, but we have knowledge in deck list. Now, when you're looking at you know how that game played out, you probably doesn't know what Mark's playing. Maybe he didn't draw his white cards. Maybe he is green-red. I mean, do I know if he has elves in his deck? I like to pillar those. Pillar his mana accelerants. You know, we did see Strangleroot, guys.
Yes, yeah.
I'd like to pillar that. But you know, overall, the pillar targets in this deck, they're not great.
No.
You know, pillaring Huntmaster is fine. You know, pillaring Strangleroot Geist is fine. Flinthoof Boars are going to be a 3/3 majority of the time. Pillaring Borderland Ranger, it already did its effect of, you know, getting the land out of his deck. And then we see Hellrider, we see Thragtusk, we see Wolf or Silverheart. So we could see a situation here where Pillar of Flame is a card that is more stuck in Ariel's hand, not really doing anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to fight the instinct once you've seen, you know, Strangleroot Geist and, you know, the implication that there could be other small things going on to leave Pillar at home. I actually think Strangleroot Geist isn't even particularly good in the matchup. If I'm in Ariel's position, I probably want him to draw those because you have these Smiters and Restoration Angels and Thragtusk, like, your deck is very well suited to fight those kind of threats.
Sure.
So I wouldn't really want to be going out of my way to answer those kind of cards, because you have plenty of cards that do that work for you, you know?
And I think I would agree with you, and we'll see how Mark sideboards for this, because Ariel saw some things that Pillar would be good against, and Mark saw some things that Strangler Guys is not very good against. As you said, he saw Smiter. He can assume Restoration Angels here. He saw Thragtusk, of course. He knows he's against 9 mid-range deck. When you're against this mid-range deck, you don't really want a 2-1 for 2. And, probably dink him for 4. And obviously, when you're playing against green mid-range, the deck can gain a lot of life. So really, what are you even doing with that? As we do see both players keep their hands. We're going to see a Farseek here from Ariel searching a Temple Garden and kick it back to Mark.
Yeah, and get in for 4, assuming that you have double green on, and you have it in your opening hand.
Yeah,
that's actually the ideal world.
Sure.
The actual nightmare is the turn 7, and I just drew Strangler Guys.
Yeah, as we do see exactly what you talked about. We're going to see a forest and a mountain here. We don't know if Mark has double green, as we do see the Flinthoof Boar, which we will bring up for you because you haven't seen it for a little while.
Let me tell you something. When Stomping Ground is a card that you can play, this card's going to be awesome.
Yes.
I would get yours now.
Yeah.
Because this thing's going to be for real.
2 mana 3/3. Nothing to ignore. I mean, interesting question. Scab Clan Mauler. I mean, which card's better? Is this one just always better than Scab Clan Mauler? Scab Clan Mauler having a trample, of course. But I mean, this one it's kind of interesting how this card plays out. It can be 3 mana 3/3 haste. It can just be 2 mana 3/3. It doesn't really have the work of Scab Clan Mauler.
I mean, this puts a lot more pressure on how you have to build your deck, because you have to have a mountain and early green mana.
Okay.
Whereas Scab Clan Mauler was, you could bias your mana base towards one color and not have to worry about having basics of the other color.
Sure.
This actually puts a lot more pressure on how you build your deck. This card, I think, is overall more powerful.
Okay.
Scab Clan Mauler, of course, is asking you to play with a lot of 1, so it's putting a different pressure on you.
Sure.
But they are certainly close to one another. Just the parameters for what they're asking out of your deck are just a little bit different.
As we see the boar coming across, Ariel did play a Cabinet of Souls on his turn, just naming Dragon. And we're going to see Thragtusk #1 of Game 2. You do see Crushing Vines there in Mark's hand as well, which is a little bit interesting to see come in. He can assume Restoration Angel. I'm not sure if he can assume Angel of Serenity.
And maybe Thundermaw Hellkite. And that Cavern on Dragon might have actually caused him to not play anything on the 3rd turn, because he wanted to just Crushing Vine Dragon.
Sure.
And then he played Thragtusk instead. So.
Yeah. Now, as good as Flinthoof Boar may be in the coming format, in this particular game right now, not so much.
It is safe to say not at its best right now.
Does not stand up to Thragtusk. Thragtusk feeling so good. Come right in, I don't mind. Attacking Mark for 5. Looking to put him down to 15. Oh, looks like he's going to jump in front. We're going to see a Selesnya Charm here. You want to talk about a card that I think is going to pick up in value.
Yes.
That one is looking to get very, very good moving forward as well, and already quite good in the format. So you see the +2/+2 effect from Selesnya Charm. Take care of the Flinthoof Boar, lets Ariel keep the Thragtusk, and we'll see what Mark can muster here. So we do see a force, not a lot of action. I mean, we see Crushing Vines, and what I look to see, I see a lot of red cards.
Yes, quite a few. And Ariel's hand's loaded. I mean, he's got Bonfire, Restoration Angel.
And we're going to see Devils play the reusable Fireball, take care of the front half of a Thragtusk. And again, I think you see that just because of Restoration Angel. You don't want the shenanigans to take place. You just want to take care of that. I mean, it kind of stinks to do that, but I mean, you just want to get that thing off the table so Restoration Angel doesn't go to work.
I think also the way that Ariel sort of pump faked and hesitated with his Thragtusk attack last turn meant that, Mark might be assuming that there's a Restoration Angel in his hand.
Sure. But we are going to see a second Thragtusk here from Ariel. It's going to bump him up to 27. Board is definitely in his favor right now, and Mark is going to have to do a lot of work to come back because, as you said, Patrick, Ariel's hand is loaded.
Yep. Bonfire, Restoration Angel still at the ready.
And the last one is, I think, the best of the 3 because it's an Angel of Serenity.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Sure, why not?
He has triple white already, so
yeah.
he's set up.
So we're going to see a mountain here from Mark. We see Blasphemous Act, that card that he was feeling really, really good about in the sideboard. We're going to see Devil's Play take care of that, and you can tell he's trying to set it up.
Yeah, he's definitely trying to mitigate Restoration Angel, slow down the clock, and try to get Blasphemous Act online. And I think that we can safely assume that Ariel will not have seen that coming if we go down that road.
Now here's the interesting thing, and you can obviously reference the article of Who's the Beatdown, and it feels to me that in game 1, and with how Mark's deck is built, he is more of the aggressor. It doesn't really seem like he can play the control role when you have cards like Flinthoofbore and Strangleguys in your deck. Whereas this game, it looks like he's taking more of a control route. Is that something that his deck can even accomplish? Given that we know that Ariel has cards like Angel Serenity, like Thragtusk. Can he even? He has Sigarda in his deck. Can he even control what Ariel's really doing?
I don't think he has much of a choice because, and there's Blasphemous Act. I don't really think that Mark has much of a choice because Ariel's deck is just too good at fighting on the ground. Like, I think that Mark needs to take a different angle of attack because his small, aggressive creatures just aren't good. Ariel's got too many. Like, what does that Smiter do against, Hellrider, Boar, Strangleguys guys?
Sure. And
that's a pretty innocuous card. That's not even among Ariel's better cards in the matchup.
Sure.
So I don't think he has much of a choice.
So we're going to see Wolfir Silverheart pair up with Flinthoofbore. So, we have an 8/8, and we're going to see a Selesnya Charm take care of that right away.
Yeah.
So Flinthoofbore moving back down to a 3/3.
I think this is just going to make Wolfrun lethal here.
Yeah, this should just be a lethal attack. He's going to jump in front. Wolfrun's going to take care of business, and we're going to be moving on to a third game here. Now, as we do see, both players are going to shuffle up here, maybe re-sideboard, what have you. I definitely agree with you about, he has to maybe change roles. I don't know if the cards are there for him to even maybe attempt to change roles. Maybe Mark has to do something and just get kind of lucky.
I mean,
maybe that's the case?
There's definitely more of an argument for that while he's on the play.
Okay.
I think that's certainly true.
Okay.
But I think on the draw, it's just too hard to what kind of hand can Ariel have where those cards are even good?
Sure.
What's the world where you're on the draw and Flinthoofbore is very good?
Sure.
It has to be, Ariel's hand has to basically be non-functional for that to be the case.
Sure.
On the play, maybe it's a different animal, but I think on the draw, Mark is correct in trying to transform his deck into something slightly more controlling.
So you think maybe we'll see a bit of a re-sideboard here on the play? Maybe the Blasphemous Acts go bye-bye. Maybe we saw a Pillar of Flame in his hand. Maybe he has the Pillar. Maybe he's able to just go, a couple of aggressive creatures, like Pillar your Mana Dorks, make it so that you can't really get your stuff online, and maybe that's his plan?
Yeah, I think, he's going back. I'm not sure if he's actually, he does look like he's changing some cards around. But yeah, I think on the play there's much more of an argument for taking an aggressive tack, but
maybe it's easier to play control on the play for him instead of on the draw. I don't really know. But, the longer the game goes, I think the more things clearly favor Ariel, mainly because the copies of Angel Serenity and how Mark really just has nothing to do about them. Crushing Vines is whatever, it's fine, but the card just gets a ton of value before it's taken care of. So.
And Ariel's Thragtusks are also much better, and that's an important concept in some of these matchups. A lot of people see, they have 4 Thragtusks, so they both have 4 Thragtusks. The card has a different effect depending on what the cards are in the opposing deck. Thragtusk is much more devastating for Mark in this matchup than it is for Ariel, because for Ariel, it's allowing him to block and get time to set up his more powerful cards like Angel Serenity and Bonfire of the Dead.
Okay.
In Mark's deck, from Mark's perspective, him gaining life isn't particularly good against Ariel, because if Ariel wins the game, it's most likely because he's just overwhelming Mark.
Yeah.
So the extra time that he's getting isn't very valuable, and that's another, incentive for Mark to try to push towards a more aggressive angle while he's on the play. His Thragtusks are not helping him stabilize the board. They're not fulfilling the role that they normally fulfill for him, against creature decks, because Ariel's deck, is trying to do something much more powerful.
Sure. Now, one thing that we could see in this particular game here is you do see both players re-sideboarding. Maybe Mark can do such a thing, get that aggressive start as best he can. Ariel does a nice job of gumming up the board, and then we see Amizium Mortars with Overload to clear things up and let Mark keep attacking. Maybe that's Mark's game plan after sideboard. Who knows?
Right, and Ariel might be more inclined to bring in Pillar when he's on the draw, because Boar and Strangleguys are a lot more threatening when he's on the draw.
Yeah.
Not that Pillar can always get Boar, but it actually, on turn 2, it's actually not easy for Mark to be able to cast it as a 3/3.
Yeah, just only 6 mountains in his deck among his 17, 20, 24 lands. You know, he has 4 Rootbound Crags, 3 Kessig Wolf Runs, and 11 forests. So yeah, it's
He has
not
to
always
play. He has to play forest untapped on. Or I guess he can go mountain. He can go mountain crag or forest mountain. It's
Sure.
not. It's not easy to do.
Sure, yeah, it's definitely not easy to always have it be a 3/3. Not yet, at least.
Yeah. Stomping Ground's coming though.
Yeah,
get your board.
in a month.
Better get your boards because they're going to be a lot better.
A little bit less than a month, it will be. But for right now, you know, an interesting gamble that Mark is taking with this deck. Talking to him, you know, while he was, you know, writing up his deck list, you know, he's saying, yeah, I'm not really sure if the deck is good or not, but you know, I've had some success with it in testing, and you know, hopefully you guys can get me on camera before I kind of put her out of the tournament. Unless the deck's good, then you might see a lot of me. So
must be nice to have Silver Hearts in your deck and run into Bonfire Guy. That's gotta feel pretty good.
It's a
right?
good feeling. It's a good feeling, without question.
Hey, you remember this one? You remember this one? Bonfire Guy?
You didn't think you'd be playing against that this weekend, did you?
It's an 8/8 now, and the other guy's is a 7/7. So good luck with that plan.
So we'll see if both players are able to keep their opening 7. Mark on the play here. I think being on the play game 3 crucial for him as well.
Oh yeah,
A big deal here.
I mean,
and I think this is a step. This is a step in the right direction for him as well. And what I think we can both agree is not a favorable matchup for him, as we said, you know, with playing mono ready. You know, hopefully, you know, maybe there's a mulligan or 2 for the opponent. You know, you kind of hope that happens when things aren't favorable for you.
Yeah, I have had my share of Game 3 opponent on the draw and mulligans, and me thinking just like, yep, there's the dial's moving just a little bit further.
Yep,
you know what I mean?
absolutely.
No, but being on the play is huge. I mean, you saw that game. The second game, Ariel went turn 2 Farseek, and Mark went turn 2 Boar. What do you think the odds are that this card is going to be any good here?
Yeah,
It's been pretty low.
Slim to none.
Pretty low.
Slim to none. And I know a point that you bring up quite a bit, especially when people are playing 3 to 4 color decks in this format, is that opportunity cost now, where, you know, is Ariel going to have all of his colors? Farseek is used to fix. You know, there's a very realistic chance as we see some colorless lands in this deck list as well, and maybe the colors don't come online for him in time.
Yeah, I think having a bunch of colors in your deck doesn't necessarily mean you mulligan more to 6 more often, but I do think that it means when you mulligan to 6, you're a lot more inclined to mulligan to 5.
Yes. As we do see an abundant growth here from Mark, fixing his mana, drawing a card. And we do see Ariel did keep his 6. We see a Rootbound Crag, and now we do see a Temple Garden. So mana, you know, we see the colors might be okay. We'll see how many he has, and we do see Strangleroot guys coming across. So we're on the aggressive plan.
Yes. Yeah, and I like this a lot better on the play. Let's see if Ariel has a response here. Nothing.
We're just going to see it for us. So no Farseek. Another fist pump from Mark.
Yep.
No Farseek, so I don't have to worry about Thragtusk ahead of schedule or Huntmaster coming down on turn 3, as we are going to see another attack with Strangleroot Geist. No Boar or anything, and just a pass back.
This would be a good spot for, say, Loxodon Smiter.
Smiter would be good. We're just going to see a pass back, though.
It's not a good spot for nothing.
So let's see what Mark can muster up here. We're going to see a Forest. Are we going to see a Hellrider or anything? No. Maybe a Huntmaster of the Fells. Anything here. Just a pass back. Wow.
Yep.
Nothing from either player, really, as we see a Kessig Wolf run here from Ariel, and he's just passing back. So this is a... You can smell that Restoration Angel out, maybe.
Yeah.
There it is.
I smell something.
Something's up, Jack. Strangleroot Geist a little bit bigger this go around. We do know there's a Pillar of Flame over there. We see a Thragtusk in Mark's hand, so the question, of course, now is, do you further your board, or do you want to get that Restoration Angel off the table?
I mean, he has to have a pretty... I mean, if he has nothing to follow up the Pillar with, I think I would Thragtusk. If I had anything decent, I would Pillar and play whatever.
Sure.
Even something like Borderland Ranger, I'd rather Pillar. But I don't think he can just spend his turn saying Pillar your guy, go. Because what are the odds that the Thragtusk gets to attack next turn, you know? If Ariel has any sort of play, or a lot of his plays, meaning that 3/2 Geist doesn't even matter.
Sure. And we are going to see a Pillar take care of that. And just to pass back, okay? So Mark opts to not further his board position along, and we're going to see Public Enemy number 1 in Thragtusk here, basically undoing all that work that Strangleroot Geist did. And this is the fear that you have if you're Mark.
Yes.
This is the fear that you have.
His Ariel's draw steps are going to be a lot better than Mark's going forward.
Yep,
that's
moving
for sure.
forward. With 5 lands and all the colors of the rainbow, I mean, the cards are just more powerful in Ariel's deck.
Yep.
So we do see Strangleroot Geist coming across here.
He has Garruk Primal Hunter, Angel of Serenity, the rest of his 5s. I mean, no end of powerful stuff.
We're going to see a Thragtusk here from Mark. Got going to push him up to 25 and put a sizable threat on the board.
Well, this is what I was talking about Ariel's Thragtusk being better. Even if you ignore Restoration Angel, it's just Mark has cards like Boar and Stranglegeist in his deck that turn Ariel's Thragtusk into actual 3-for-1s.
Sure.
The same is not true in reverse.
Yep. And we see Loxodon Smiter in Ariel's hand, along with a Kessig Wolfrun and another land, a Sunpetal Grove. Doesn't look like there's a ton of action over there. It looks like he might be floating a little bit, but there's 5 mana being tapped. And we're going to see a Thundermaw Hellkite.
Okay.
So he's going to go to the skies and start pressuring Mark's life total. It's going to push Mark back down to 20.
And if you're Mark, you're actually thrilled that was his play instead of basically any other creature in his deck.
Yeah.
Because you can definitely win this game in 5 turns.
Yeah.
If Ariel wants to spend his turn just getting an attacker into play, you're actually pretty stoked.
Yeah, you're definitely happy about that.
Like another Thragtusk or Restoration Angel, it's hard to imagine Mark winning unless he gets very lucky with Blasphemous Act. But this game right here is very winnable.
Yeah, you're pretty happy with how things have shaped up so far. You know, Mark can attack here, relatively profitably. Strangleroot Guy's trading with the front half of that Thragtusk, maybe getting in for 5, putting him down to 11. His deck has some reach. He does have 2 Devil's Plays in his main, 1 in his board. So, maybe Mark is also calculating, maybe I only have to get him down to like 11-ish.
Right.
And start, draw those fireballs, start moving upstairs. Those are all things that can be running through his head right now. So you see Mark does have a Blasphemous Act and a Thragtusk in his hand, and he is going to come across here. Kind of threaten that Kessig Wolfrun as you see him moving those manas over a little bit as well.
His Wolfrun and 2 lands set aside.
Yeah. Not Mark's first rodeo.
No.
So we'll see what decision Ariel chooses to take. So we're just going to see these guys run into each other. Mark's going to get in for 3 and knock him down to 13. You see Ariel's hand right now, Patrick. 2 Wolfruns.
And
I think, and a Loxodon Smiter.
A Smiter.
That's it. And you see a second Thragtusk here.
Yep.
What's in trouble?
What's left over in Mark's hand?
We do know that Mark has. What do we draw there? Didn't quite get a good look at it. I know that Mark has a Blasphemous Act. Not quite sure.
It looks like Selesnya Charm was the draw.
Pretty good.
Yes.
Good draw, but not great draw.
Yeah, I mean certainly against a Wolfrun, that's not a bad draw to have.
Yes, that's definitely true.
Mucks up a lot of Mark's paths.
You see Thundermaw can't stop, won't stop. In for 5 more, knocking Mark back down to that 20. Kind of begs the question is we're going to see probably that Loxodon Smiter. Should we still be attacking with that? The life total is Ariel's life total 13. It's okay.
I think there would be an argument to sit back if Mark didn't have Wolfrun in play.
Okay.
But with the Wolfrun, it's just too hard to defend with that guy.
Sure, make profitable, good, healthy trades.
Yep. Ariel actually needs to kind of play a shorter game here because the Wolfrun can overwhelm him here.
Okay.
So just get in your shots, sort of compress the action. He has his own Wolfrun where he can, maybe fireball Mark out. I like continuing to attack with the Hellkite here.
Okay. Because we did see the Loxodon Smiter that we knew about from Ariel come into play. His hand right now, just a Kessig Wolfrun and a very important Selesnya Charm. And we'll see, Mark saw this in the second game. He saw Selesnya Charm. So now it's up to him to, play around this the best that he can.
Yeah, and it makes attacking real hard, right? Because if you're under the impression that Ariel has it, what do? If you send with everyone, then he puts Smiter in front of one of your 3 power guys, the Beast in front of your Thragtusk, and then do you just not Wolfrun?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like
do you just Wolfrun for 1?
Right.
And then he just makes the Smiter into a 6/6?
Yeah, it's a pretty big squeeze here.
As we see a Blasphemous Act over there, we see a Force. Blasphemous Act Thragtusk is the rest of Mark's hand here. So, maybe he's setting up some sort of Blasphemous Act, leaving himself with a 3/3 token. You're not quite sure.
And if his plan is a Blasphemous Act, then he has to be very careful about allowing Ariel to profitably trade because he needs to have Ariel to actually have a saturation of guys in play for that card to be good.
Yeah, for it to be cheap and be able to, for it to be cheap and then slam down with Thragtusk post it. Stuff like that.
Yeah, yep. I mean, he's squeezed in a lot of directions here, so.
So we do see Mark coming across with all 3 creatures, putting initiative on Ariel to make the proper blocks.
Yeah, and this is how I would block if I was in Ariel's spot too.
Yep.
with that Selesnya Charm, you have a lot of insurance against the range of cards Mark can have here to justify the attack. If it's just Wolf Run, you have that covered, and if it's something else, you probably have it covered too.
Yep. And now we see the big tap of Wolf Run here, targeting the Beast token, and we're going to see exactly what you said, the Selesnya Charm, as Mark kind of kind of bangs his fist a little bit on the table there. Yeah. Definitely not pumping it, but a little bit unhappy to see that.
Yeah, that was devastating. I mean,
and so now Ariel draws his card, and as you said, every draw step here, a huge sweat for Mark, because again, the cards in Ariel's deck so much more powerful than the cards in Mark's. Ariel has so few bad draws.
For example, Bonfire of the Damned would not be a bad draw here.
That would not be would not be a poor draw.
Something that just comes off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But Ariel also has to be worried. I mean, Blasphemous Act is also something that's got to be, you know, he's looking at a Huntmaster in his hand right now, and he's like, do I even want to play this thing? Like, no. You know what I mean? Is he better off just attacking with his guys and using Wolf Run and trying to close his game out quickly? Well, if you do that, then you risk losing to Devil's Play or some other burn spell. I mean, it's tough to play around everything here.
As we're going to see a Huntmaster of the Fells here from Ariel. Going to get 2 life, going to get a Wolf token, 2 guys in the way. But now, we know, of course, that there is no Selesnya Charm to fear, and also, with Ariel's tapping of his mana, there's no Selesnya Charm for Mark to fear either, so probably a bit of a hiccup there.
Yeah.
No bluffing of Selesnya Charm, which was such a beating last turn. And Mark played into it. Maybe he would play into it again, but if there was white mana open, he would at least second guess himself a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
But also on the flip side, which is a little bit interesting as well, if this is a turn for Mark, where he is just moving in on Kessig Wolf Run, that's no spell. That's a Huntmaster of the Fells flipping.
Yeah.
So that's also something to keep in mind as well.
I mean, I still obviously would have preferred to keep the dual lands open, but it changes things some amount.
And so now you're going to see a Blasphemous Act here from Mark, clearing everything up. After that, you're going to see a Thragtusk.
That was a huge draw.
Huge turn, moving himself back up to 20. Ariel with no board draws what is not the best draw right now. I believe that was a Farseek.
Yeah, I believe that's Farseek.
And I'm just checking right now. Is this a lethal attack right now? We're going to see Ariel at 12-5. Wolf Run being able to move up.
I don't think it's lethal.
So it's not lethal yet, but I mean, it's a huge chunk of damage.
Yeah.
And this is part of the reason I think that Mark was such a huge fan of Blasphemous Act coming out of the tournament. Yes, Ariel did see it game 2, but it is still an incredibly difficult card to play around.
Yeah.
And there are some situations, Patrick, where you can't even play around it.
Right, and you know, I mean, if Ariel wanted to play around it, he would have been exposing himself to Devil's Play too. So you know, he was really squeezed there.
Yeah, what red card does he want to play around? As you do see Wolf Run here for 6, it's going to knock Ariel down to 1. We need a good one. There are plenty of good ones to draw. Cavern of Souls ain't it.
Yeah.
And Mark Lalangue, Grand Prix Anaheim champion, also has seen some success in the Star City Games circuit. Beat you at Grand Prix Denver.
Easily.
Easily
defeated me at Grand Prix Denver.
Moves along to 2-0 with his brew. Little green-red aggro. Who needs stomping grounds?
Yeah, pretty impressive there. And, you know, I mean, I think that matchup was not awesome for Mark, but